can you see this person's perspective, but can you see beyond this barrier that is in front of you right now? And we do get to that place of gratitude and actually appreciation. Now, it takes us refusing to stay in a victim mindset in order to do that.
Welcome in, everybody. It is launch date time. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
You know, it's a good day. You know, we've got, our world is messed up.
We have got a lot of stuff happening, and it's incredibly heavy. It causes a lot of angst, a lot of questions, a lot of pain, on top of just already established questions, pain, and so forth.
Let's just dive right on in. Let's talk Texas. What went on yesterday? Mass shooting in Texas. The whole world is grieving over things like that. When something is out of your control and it involves children, how do we keep going?
Well, that's, that sort of goes back to what we talked about a couple of weeks ago about collective grief or compound grief. And so that can be what's happening now. I have a lot of clients. I know a lot of people that have kids in elementary school. I even have a couple of really good friends that are elementary school teachers. And, well, not a couple, I have one, but, that it shakes us at our core because it's one of those things that doesn't make sense. So we either sit with it, let it sink in, and then go, okay, I can't effectively change this right now in this moment. That's different and then self-caring than just Googling, reading, commenting, posting, and allowing yourself to get sucked in and dragged down. Because at some point, your own stuff will weave through that tapestry and you'll feel incredibly angry, helpless, hopeless, or numb.
Yeah.
Not many of us walk away from news like yesterday, tiptoeing through the tulips. I mean, if we do, we're probably a psychopath. So we don't typically do that,
Yeah. It was just, I mean, I can't imagine. I'm grieving for those parents. I'm grieving for us. I'm grieving for our country. It's just, I think we're all at a fever pitch. Let's talk about the young man that did this. I mean, are there signs that we can look for when we have teenagers that are that age?
Well, I'm going to be honest. I've not read a lot about what happened. I know what happened, but I've not done a deep dive into the young man or why, or I couldn't tell you anything other than what I heard yesterday. But yes, to answer your question, there are things that we as parents, grandparents, teachers, friends of family, there are things that we can, and again, I don't know this young man's story, but there are a lot of kids who are depressed or are anxious or are disconnected from feelings and emotions. There are also kids that have, defiant disorders where they really just they're not plugging into anyone. Turning the other cheek and looking away is the biggest or one of the biggest harms we can do to anyone because they're kids and they will grow up to be adults that still do not feel connected.
I hear a lot of excusing away things that are dangerous behaviors, thinking they're just kids and it's a phase and they're going through a phase. All kids are like this. They all go through this. What do you say to that?
I don't agree with that.
I don't either. So
I don't agree that all kids go through harmful phases or that all kids go through phases where they disconnect from family and friends and are incredibly defiant or blocked out or quiet or isolating. Now, I'm not saying that some people aren't, but there's accountability there.
What do you do if you know that you have a child, a grandchild, a niece, a nephew, and something is wrong, and they don't leave a video game. They literally are so isolated in their little capsule of life, and words come out of their mouth that are disturbed. They have changes in them, and you go, this is not okay behavior. What do you do? I mean,
if they're over the age of 18, you can't do a whole lot of anything. So that's why when they're 8, 9, 10, 12, 15, you can. You can get them in to see a professional. You yourself can speak with a professional and share what's going on. Mm-hmm. We live in a society that a lot of folks are plugged in, mm-hmm. but there's a large group of parents out there. I parented. I became a parent a little older. I was 29, or no, wait, I was 28. My daughter reminded me that I've always thought I was 29 when I had her, but turns out I was 28. But there's a large group of parents that are overwhelmed, overworked, and sometimes not even grown up themselves. And so it's mm-hmm. easier to dismiss and just let your kids go do what they want to do. They're not getting in trouble, so let them stay in there and shut down and live in the dark room. They're okay. It's not okay. I'm not saying that kids that play video games, that they're disturbed. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying that when you actively disconnect from your child or your grandchild, if you're raising your grandchild, or teachers' hands are tied pretty much. I mean, they can see these things, but realistically, if the parent isn't doing anything at home, and if we're being honest, mm-hmm. we know what goes on inside our own home.
We do. I think that's it. I think, and no shade, no judgment here, but I think sometimes we don't know what to do.
Absolutely.
We just don't know what to do. And so that's why I'm asking these questions. Elizabeth joins us today. So glad it's a Wednesday. We're glad you're here. Candy is here. Welcome, welcome. Hi, Teri. There's Teri Luna from Louisiana. Elizabeth, I have sad but mixed feelings about yesterday. Angela joins us. Good to have you, Angela. And let's see, Candy says, I just can't watch it all because it makes me so very sad for those who it happened to, those around the community and for our country. I know. So that's a very smart thing. We talk about that here. Watch so you know what happened. There's that. But when you when it becomes obsessive to you and takes you down, that's when it's dangerous. Oh, Teri brings up an important point. He's been praying for the funeral directors that would have to help these families through this horrible time. He's a funeral director in my hometown.
Absolutely.
And
that's Devon, that's a perfect example. That is a perfect example what Teri just said about, extending prayer to other people, because this is so much bigger than just the families and the school. It goes out to, we don't, unless you're in one of those professions, they sort of slip through the cracks and you don't really realize just how big of a heavy ripple, a tidal wave of sorts, that something like this sends out.
Exactly. Rhonda says, I was raised, you live under my roof, you live by my rules. I think social media has a lot to do with what's going on in the world.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Yes and no. I mean, yes, some people are raised with you're under my roof, do what I say, but other people aren't. And there's no judgment to that. It's just that we have to be mindful and we have to be accountable on whatever level is ours to be accountable. And as individuals, you may not know anyone that anything like this has ever happened to, but you're still accountable with what comes out of your mouth and how much you take in to your psyche. You might not can change what has happened, but you can absolutely monitor how you stay regulated or dysregulated. So there's big ripples that happen, and then within each of us, there's little ripples that happen. And no matter how you look at it, it's a web that is connected.
She brings up another good point. When I was growing up, some of the teachers and others outside the home saved my life. The teachers have so much on them. I mean, I got to tell you, I was raised by teachers. My mom and dad, both teachers. Teachers have so much on them, but teachers are also the first ones to notice certain things that are antisocial behaviors. Mm-hmm. And I'm not putting it on teachers, but if you are a teacher, you're not in the family. You have to use your resources and your recourses to be able to go in and say, this child needs help.
And that said, we have to understand that teachers can only do so much, because when a child is exhibiting problems, if we're talking about social issues, or we're talking about, elementary school kids or high school kids, whether they're eating crayons, or which could probably be, I guess, a normal thing in elementary school or primary school. But, if they're doing things that are defiant, teachers really only have the resources they have to go to the parents. And if the parents don't do anything, because either they don't know what to do, or they just don't, I hate to say don't care, but they're just disconnected from their kids because of their raising, then it was, it'll be okay. You'll be fine. I was like that too, and you'll be fine. We can't dismiss that. And I do agree with Rhonda when she says that social media, I don't think that it has everything to do with it, but I do think that it has a lot to do with it, because we live behind so much judgment and comparisons that it's really hard for young adults. And a young adult, for me, I'm talking about high school to 25-ish, and even children that are in primary or secondary school. Social media is everywhere, but I don't think that social media is necessarily the root of it. I stand with the root of it is where you're planted. And if you're planted at your home, then that's,
There are things that happen. Candy says devastation in a town affects and ripples out to everyone in the community, from the kids to adults to businesses to government. Joyce, I have a grandson and an older son, both with mental issues. The younger one has totally social anxiety and cannot be around many people at a time. He's 18 and still barely talks to any of us. The older son is 50 and right at this moment is having a mental evaluation in the hospital. I'm just praying for both these guys and their separate issues. A lot of the older son's problems were years of drugs, etc. Like you said, I just feel useless not knowing what to do for either of them at this time. And I'm sure that what happened yesterday is very triggering if you've got children and people at home with this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's not easy, and that's why I want to be clear about this conversation today. It's not about judgment. It's not about pointing fingers, and it damn sure is not talking about how easy it is if you just turn off the TV or the social medias or make them come out and play, because that's not what it's about. It's, and I'll be honest with you, there are some parents out there and grandparents out there that are scared of their children, scared of them.
Oh, absolutely. I know all about that. Linda says, Linda is in Texas. My heart hurts for not only the children who died and their families, teachers, and ISD, but for all the children, families, and others who genuinely have to deal with topics such as this. It is not fair in this world for children to have news like this. It's terrifying.
And the world's not supposed to be like this for children.
No. The Gibsons, I said, Gary there were a couple that went with us to Gatlinburg, Teri. Okay. I work in Christiana at the elementary school. It's a sad world we live in. Our children are in a rat race. They have school, sports, dance class, piano lessons. And while that's all good, I'm grateful for parents who keep kids involved, but they need quality time and conversation with adults and friends. Okay, let's open that one. Conversation with adults and friends. Conversation with mom and dad. That kids crave it.
Yeah, conversation with mom and dad. Kids enjoy structure. Now, that doesn't mean that they enjoy militant disciplinary action, but they enjoy structure.
Mhm.
And we do, very good point. We do keep our kids, we teach our kids to be anxious. We teach our
Mhm.
kids to be perfectionist. We teach our
Mhm.
kids to feel almost not good enough in a lot of ways. And that's not a judgment. It's just, to Gary's point, we keep their schedules so busy that, yeah, you're being a kid when you're doing these things, but you're not able to decompress or stop and have conversations. And I mean, we've got, I know people that have got schedules that I look at their schedules and I'm just like, holy cow. I mean, like, they're as busy as politicians that I know. I
Oh,
mean, I'm
absolutely.
shocked. And that's so hard for a little brain, because they're not fully developed yet. It's so hard for them to just we teach them to think that they're multitasking, but they're not. And that connection and that conversation and that putting electronics away and shutting down social medias and having monitors on social medias and turning off video games and sitting down, whether you're at your dinner table or whether you're at a TV tray in the den or whether you're outside on a picnic table, or if you have to go through the drive-through, go through the drive-through, but sit in your stinking car and cut everything off except the air this time of the year, and have conversations, talk, ask them what their high that day was, ask them what their low that day was, listen to them. We teach them not to talk because no one's interested in hearing what they have to say. And not all parents do that. I want to be fair. But there are a lot of parents that are stressed, anxious, worried. And there are parents now that don't want to send their kids to school because it's a very scary thing to think that you send your children to school and where they are historically have been the safest. They're not now.
Yeah.
And
Johnny,
being honest, for some years.
We love you too, Johnny. Thank you for being here. Elizabeth, it makes me sad when someone commits suicide. We mourn as a country and talk about mental health issues, as opposed to the initial reaction of evil of the shooter when things like this happen. Mental health issues need to be talked about, period. I think that conversation is being had more now than it was. But I think if you're the parent of a child, there's still not mental health. There is no cookie cutter. Oh, well, yeah, you have this infection. Let's take this.
There is no cookie cutter. And the other thing, Devon, is there is such a stigmatism around mental health because as a society, people will go, oh my gosh, they're crazy. Oh my gosh, they're nuts. Oh my gosh, they're acting manic. Oh my goodness, they got OCD. They don't say it because they say it to be mean or nasty or just a smart ass. They say that stuff to be even funny sometimes. It's not funny because people who struggle with obsessive compulsive disorder, that's not a walk in the park for people. People that struggle with anxiety, it's not a walk in the park. I hear so many young adults and older adults tell me, I just wish I wasn't here because I wouldn't feel this way. That's heartbreaking to hear.
And it's just everywhere right now. Candy offers mental illness and dysfunctional families is something that we don't talk about enough. And more importantly, we don't get help for them. There's a stigma that society puts on this, and it shouldn't be that way. We need to not feel judgment if they need help, or we need help, and just help people to get it. Stop shaming them. Amen. Angela says social media can be a wonderful tool like this. I have to step away from the people with blinders, not willing to hear the other side.
Right. Yeah. And, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. So we have to fact check ourselves. We have to know what we're putting out there as far as when we're agreeing with someone or disagreeing with someone. We have to also aim to shut down conversations that are designed to harm or destroy other people, especially when you don't know the facts. Now, and case in point, like I said to you, Devon, I don't know. I've not read. I've not heard. I don't rely on social media to give me my facts about something like this. I will do my own research on that. I do not think we get anywhere as a society going, well, there's another young kid that just didn't have any help at home. And, he just went crazy and shot up a school and he's just evil.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, unless you're in that child's head or you're part of their family, you don't know what's going on. So be careful and intentional with your words.
Oh, that's important. Elizabeth did that. She had something to offer for what you said, was so scared of our kids. I have a very, very dear friend whose sister was killed by her grandson.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens. And that happened in the story in Texas. I mean, that just, there are so many dark sides to it. I think it's really important. Rhonda says also a stigma as it relates to PTSD. True.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Elizabeth offers, I think that people like myself who've experienced mental health issues need to be open to talking about it. When others see that someone walked in similar shoes and survived, it can be life-changing. Faith, hope, and experience will always help. And, there are so many people that it's just, that don't discuss it. And if they think they've gotten through it, then they don't say that they've gotten through something. They just,
right. So I would like to know from those folks that are listening today, how are you taking care of yourself during this time? Because let's be real, we're coming off of COVID. We're coming off of, I don't know how many different things that we've had. Just in the couple of weeks ago, we had the news about Naomi. And then, the Johnny Depp trial is going full force. And I know there are a lot of people saturated in that. And then there's this. We can so easily lose sight of being triggered.
Yeah.
And we can so easily lose sight of it just being heavy that we just sort of emotionally compartmentalize and check out from it. So if anyone's open, I would like to know, what are some of the things that you're doing to be responsible with your energy? Like we've talked about, shutting down social media, stepping away from it, stopping conversations or walking away from conversations that can be damaging to you. Having healthy conversations with people who are healthy to talk to about it, and people who are not, recognizing that it's no judgment against them. They're just not your person to talk to about it. Not everyone is going to understand.
Ooh, amen. Amen. Linda says, preteens and teens. I have 3 granddaughters who don't often want to talk, even when we get out in nature and detach from all electronics. Unfortunately, most social media feeds the negative for most kids. Their brains aren't mature enough to understand healthy balance. With that said, they can be angry at me when I tell them to go outside and talk with me. Our country needs to address how many mental issues our children are dealing with. And she says, at the end of the day, balance is everything.
Absolutely, Linda. Absolutely. We don't as a whole, if we turn the clock back 30, 40 years, right? Even 50 years. And I'm not saying that being outside is the answer to everything, but we were outside a lot. We had friends, we had connections, and I'm not talking about friends that you follow or that you like and all that stuff. You had people, you knew their names, you rode bikes, you did things. And I get it, as society evolves, so does humankind. We evolve to what's convenient. And, I always get the internal eye roll when I'm talking to people about this, but I really believe that, like, when we invented the microwave and the computer, that was sort of and don't get me wrong. Well, I don't use a microwave a lot, but I do love my computer because it helps facilitate things like this. But that was, unbeknownst to so many of us, the beginning of a rat race that is a landslide for people. And it makes it's like crawling up a sand dune. It's
right.
Almost impossible because there's just new things all the time. And we condition our brain to want the new, want the new, want the new, whether it's a video game, whether it's a cell phone, whether it's whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's damaging to our psyche.
Getting physical is important. And I want to throw this out there that Planet Fitness, wherever you're watching this, is doing something for kids in the summertime. For kids, I think it's from 12 to 18. 12 to 18.
I haven't heard about that.
Teddy Savage is a friend, and he works with National Planet Fitness. You can sign up for free, and you can go all summer for free. It's for kids get moving, to have something to get them moving. So Planet Fitness, free for kids. I think it's 12 to 18, if I'm not mistaken. So
that is wonderful.
It is huge, and it's part of what they do. And if you don't have a Planet Fitness near you, they have a Get Moving program on YouTube that is free as well, and you can be part of that. Angela says, I check out and scroll past unhealthy debates and those that are fueled by political party and not conversations that actually can promote hope and healing. Yes. Mm-hmm. That's a good way to police your own social media. Kids don't always get that, and the bully situation, and who looks like what, and who looks like this, and who's dating whom. And Linda, I don't attend a particular church, but I find God in nature. Beautiful, beautiful. Absolutely. We always look for ways, and this is the part of the show, we got about 4 minutes left, where we talk about what we do to feed ourselves, our spirits, our souls. Rhonda says, I turn my phone off when I really need to turn my head off. I write, pray, cook, or blast my music, and sometimes even cry, but I don't cry real often. And that's good. Good cleansing cry is good. Candy says she stays away from watching news on a daily basis, and that goes for the Depp Heard trial too, which is all over social media. I pray and meditate to help ground myself, go for walks, exercise, limit social media by taking breaks, and on Sunday spend most of my day doing things I'm getting back to, like art, crafts, even going through my closets. I love that.
Nice.
Yeah. Clearing out, getting involved, and sometimes even getting your kids involved in a charitable activity that you can do together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Something that you can do together. You and your daughter have done things together like that throughout. I mean, you've done some really cool things.
We've done a lot of stuff. And now that she's not here she's not here anymore. She lives in a different state, but she's very active in doing her own stuff. So, I mean, there's all sorts of things, from signing up to do walks with your, like 5Ks or things like that, to doing Home Depot has free project things that you can do on the weekends. If you have little kids that like to go in there and hammer around and make something, they make birdhouses and little kits and things. And then there's Habitat for Humanity for, older individuals, meaning older, or not 5-year-olds, but, 15, 16, 18-year-olds. There's all sorts of things. We just have to be, again, it requires us to be willing to partner up with our kids or our grandkids and get out and do things. We live in a world where a lot of parents work, and when they get home, they're exhausted. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we've got one income families. And I mean, if we're being real, there's just not a lot of energy or time. And we can all get on our soapbox and say, well, we're responsible for yada, yada, yada. And to some degree we are, but it doesn't take away the realities that people are living with. So rather than judging the realities, if being a big brother or a big sister in your local community, or reaching out, if you attend church, reaching out to a family that can, if you have single parents, reaching out to spend time with their kids, or, neighbors. If you live in a neighborhood and you've got families that live there and you've got a couple of kids, yes, a lot of people can go, well, that'll just get you in trouble, because you can't hang out with kids. Not everybody comes from that cynical platform.
Right. One of the most helpful things, it's something really simple. Bring back the family table. Have dinner together at night. Have dinner together, and as a family, it's that place that it brings you together, and something about having a meal together wherever all the social media is off, television's off, and it's amazing what gets discussed And we're really so busy now that has gone away, and it's affecting us, I think.
Well, and being, adding to that, if your family is healthy enough to have dinner together.
Okay, that's right.
I grew up with, I lived in Fairview for a while, and my home life was not healthy enough to have dinner at the table because we had adults having food fights and screaming and yelling, and it was very terrifying and traumatizing to even know that the sun was getting down to that certain spot where you knew you were going to start seeing the fireflies or the lightning bugs, as we call them here in the South, and to feel triggered. So
yeah,
some people, unfortunately, just don't have healthy families. And I hate that for those children.
Yeah.
My heart breaks for them.
I gotcha.
But if you do have a healthy family and you can sit down and have dinner, absolutely.
Yeah.
Have a picnic out in the yard.
Joyce says our church used to have the teenagers go out and do work for older people, mow grass, weed eat, clean yards. I really think learning to be helpful to older people is great for teenagers. I think so too.
I agree, Joyce, 100%. I love that your church did that.
Missy says my mom and dad both worked. My brother and cousin stayed with my grandmother. Now parents may not have that advantage. Our extended family we moved away. We used to stay close in our, grandma's house, and they're not that way anymore. We move across country. Our things are changed like that. But you can create a support network within where you are.
I have friends that that FaceTime their parents and their kids, and they do dinners that way. And my daughter will FaceTime me and her grandmothers, and we'll sit down and do board games. And it's just fun. It's fun. Now, would it be better if we were all in the same room? I don't know. Maybe not. But we're still connected. Some kids don't have that. Some kids come home from school and they're excited and they're like, play ball with me or play a game with me. And the parents are like, no. No judgment there, but our children are our responsibilities. So.
Elizabeth said, my brother and sister-in-law have their evening meal with their 3 kids and no devices. Some nights one of the kids has an activity, but all who are home sit at the dinner table. I love that.
I love that for them.
And Missy says, we sat as a family. We didn't know families that didn't.
Right.
Oh, Mona loves your hair.
Thank you, Mona.
I know. That's ride or die right there. And Miss said that was in the 60s and 70s. Yeah. And things have changed. And you know what? But at any moment, we can work on changing them back.
And one of the takeaways today, despite what we're seeing on social media and what we see in the news, is there really is more good in this world than not.
Amen.
There really is. Sometimes we lose sight of that because we just get so busy. But I would challenge anyone who's feeling heavy and feeling like there's not good anywhere. I would challenge them to really sit with that and, assess your heart, assess your mind, assess your pets, assess, your abilities that you have, and be willing to change that perspective.
Yeah. Amen. Well, we have come to the end of a broadcast day. Oh, we can't leave before we have Janet on because Janet hasn't weighed in before. Janet says, when the kids are at our house, they say prayers before evening meals. No electronics. We discuss what everyone did throughout the day. Breakfast and lunch are hit and miss because of schedules. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love the fact, Janet, that you discuss what they do throughout the day, because that is a big thing. Just a simple, what's your high today, what's your low today. You'd be amazed what kids say. It's really, it's. I had one client. I asked her one time what was her high, and it was that she had seen lightning bugs the night before. And I just thought that was so. I mean, she's a young. She's not yet 10, but it was just. The innocence and the sweetness in that was just delicious.
There's more good than not, Elizabeth says. That's why I turned off the news about 2 years ago. I haven't watched evening news since I can remember. I still hear through social media, but I can turn that off. Yes. Mona, keeping a positive no matter keeping it positive no matter, and prayers for those going through hard and terrible times. Amen. Amen.
Absolutely.
And Rhonda's got some good news for us, getting a new wheelchair next week. Woo, woo.
Nice, Rhonda.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Very, very good. And Linda is going to close everything because we're going to wrap. It's time for more good news to be shared on all platforms and how to find the good in ourselves and others. Amen.
Amen. Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I said it was the last one. Angela's got too good a story, got some good news. At a wedding this past weekend, I was thanked for saving a man's life over 22 years ago. Whoa.
Wow.
Our actions are always a ripple, are also a ripple.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our thoughts, our actions, our words. So,
all right. Well, you can reach out to me, Devon O'Day at Gmail. We are here every week at noon. Launch date is on YouTube and a lot of different channels. So subscribe and join us at noon on Wednesdays.
Absolutely. You can find me at teripugh.com or Transcending Turbulence on Instagram. I started thinking about all the social media platforms and I thought I only post on one and I feed it to the rest of them. So I don't even know the other one's names, but yeah. And also I will say this super quick, check your feeds, like go through, if you're a Facebook person or you're an Instagram person or you're a Twitter person, go through your feeds or your likes and the people you follow. I'm not asking you to follow Devon and I, but I'm just saying the people that you follow, make sure a smile sort of comes across your heart or your face when you see a post, and it's not just like, ooh, what's this? You know, it's important. It's important to saturate the lighter, more positive, you know, and there's so many of them out there, you know, that just post really positive things all the time.
Well, let's see. Oh, Pam Brock joined us right there at the end. She, you know, she chimed in and said, "Thank you for the conversation. Unfortunately, we needed it," and it's true. It is unfortunate that we need it, but it is fortunate that we have each other.
Absolutely.
So,
we all have each other. I feel like we should do like a group hug like this. Yes.
There we go.
There we go. And by the way, I am going to be doing the Hugging It Out workshop. It's coming back. So
it was so good. I did it. I went to it.
Yeah. It's gonna be I have not decided yet if it's going to be June or July. It may be both. I don't know. I'm just waiting to get that guidance from my big kahuna. So as soon as I know, I'll let everybody else know. So I love it. Yeah.
All right. Well, take us home, sister.
All right, dear. Well, again, as always, we love and appreciate each and every one of you that show up and share with us. And until we see you next Wednesday, increase the peace and intentional moments that tip your scale in favor of peaceful and memorable days. See ya.